Hello guys, hope you are doing well. Today we are going to discuss about a chapter that is very basic but the most important branch of physics, that is kinematics. And it is very useful in your higher studies. You can also find applications of kinematics even in your day-to-day life. And it is very most important topic in most of the competitive exams. So let's get started. First of all, let's discuss about the introduction of the kinematics and the weightage of kinematics in JEE exams. And after that, let's move on to the topic. So, what is kinematics? It is a branch of mechanics. Of course, mechanics is a branch of physics and it mainly deals with the motion of objects or bodies without reference to the cause of the motion. And this cause of the motion, we generally call it as force, without reference to the force causing the motion. So what is kinematics? Kinematics is a branch of physics that deals with the motion of objects without reference to the force causing the motion. And there is another branch of mechanics that is called dynamics that deals with the motion of objects with reference to the force. We will discuss that later. And kinematics has very wide applications, not only in exams, in our day-to-day life. Most of the applications you can see kinematics, and in this chapter we will deal with the concepts of motion in one dimension and two dimension, and we also study some characteristics of moving bodies like distance, displacement, speed, velocity, etc., and acceleration. Now, what are the applications of kinematics in our day-to-day life? How it is useful in our life? In our day-to-day life, we can find kinematics to find the velocity and acceleration of moving objects and in flying aeroplanes, and mainly we use it to predict values of parameters. Let us suppose you are solving a problem. Each and every problem in kinematics is based on finding a parameter, either it can be speed, acceleration, or displacement at any instant, or for the overall motion of the body. It is all about finding the parameters, and you will have initial parameters and you have to find the final value of those parameters. And in JEE, generally one or two questions will come directly from kinematics. Only concept of kinematics, you can expect one or two questions both in mains and advanced. Nowadays we rarely see questions from single chapter. Always the questions are based on multi-conceptual questions. So from all the chapters like circular motion, collision, even in modern physics, electromagnetism, wherever the motion of particles or motion of objects is involved, either kinematics or dynamics is definitely useful. This is very basic and easiest chapter and also very important. The concepts that are involved in this chapter are very widely useful in many other chapters. Now our first topic is introduction to motion in one dimension, that is straight line. As you all know the basic definitions of rest and motion, as you all studied in 9th and 10th classes, let's just revise them. Rest. What do you mean by when you said the object is in rest? The position of body, if the position of body does not change with respect to time, like now consider this pen. From the starting of the video and up to till now, it is just there. The position of the pen has not changed. So we can say that the pen is at rest. But the pen in my hand is constantly moving. It's changing its position with respect to time. So we can say body is in motion if it changes its position with respect to time. There are so many examples for the objects that are in rest and in motion. Like for motion, if you see moon constantly moving around earth, and sun is always at rest, but for us it looks like it is in motion. We will discuss that with an example. Now let us consider an example in which uh, three people. Let us consider your mom and you and your brother, three people, and you and your brother daily goes to school in a bus, and your mom daily comes to the bus stand to drop you. See, this is an example in which I have considered three people. Let us consider your mom, you and your brother. You and your brother goes to school in a bus daily, and your mother comes to the bus stand to drop you. Now, let us consider the moment when you and your brother both are inside the bus and your mother is standing beside the bus. Like this is first situation. And the moment when the bus has started and bus is moving in this direction. And this is the second moment when bus moved a small distance. Like if you see the movement of your mother is at rest. Your mother is not moving. She is just standing there. And if you consider the object as your brother, if you consider the object as your brother is moving in a bus and you are inside the same bus. See, if you see your brother, he is at rest with respect to you. After 2 minutes, bus moved from this position to this position. But with respect to you, your brother is at rest. But according to your mother, your brother is at motion. See, same object. We considered your brother as object. He is at rest with respect to you, but he is in motion with respect to your mother. From your mother point of view, your brother is moving along with the bus, and even you are moving along with the bus. But with respect to you, from your point of view, your brother is at rest. Same object, your brother is at rest and is in motion. But the difference here is the observer. So now I think you understand the main difference between the rest and the motion. Because the motion is described as it is a combined property of object and the observer. And this observer, in the language of physics, it is called reference frame or frame of reference. Now in this example, if you consider the frame of reference as your mother, the object is moving. That is your brother, he is moving. And if you consider the frame of reference as you, the object is at rest. So to conclude any statement in any example, to conclude any object if it is moving or at rest, you have to first observe the frame of reference. What is this frame of reference? What is this frame of reference? Generally, we observe a object by using a frame or plane. We can call it the plane. And by adding time to that frame, we can conclude our result, either if the object is moving or at rest. For example, let us change our frame of reference as moon. Now I am taking my frame of reference as moon. Means even this pen, as I said earlier, it is at rest, but now it is moving with respect to our frame of reference. Our frame of reference, I considered it as moon. So even now this pen is moving, is in motion, because it is on this table on the earth, and the earth is in motion with respect to moon. So we can say that this pen is moving with respect to our frame of reference. Now if I change my frame of reference to earth, again that pen is at rest. But now moon is moving, moon is in motion. So it is very important for you to decide your frame of reference. We can choose anything as frame of reference. There are no rules and regulations in deciding our frame of reference. We generally choose our frame according to our convenient. Like if our object is in motion, if the object that is considered is in motion, we consider a frame of reference that is in motion. So it will be easy for us to solve. So this is about frame of reference and the introduction to motion. After this, before moving into the main topics like distance and displacement, I want to revise some basic concepts of vectors. As you know, this chapter mostly deals with vector quantities and also scalar quantities. It is very important to learn some basic vector formulas and again resolution of vectors. So let's go ahead and start vectors and scalars. Vectors and scalars, as you already learned them in your 9th or 8th standard. Scalars generally means physical quantities that are described only by magnitude, and you can use all type of algebraic expressions in them. Directly you can use them, like you can add them directly, or you can subtract, or you can multiply by any other constant, or you can multiply two scalars. You can use all type of algebraic expressions in scalar. For scalar, but in vectors that is different. The definition of vectors is physical quantities described by both magnitude and direction. And now let us consider some examples for scalars and vectors. For scalars, we can take example distance and speed, and for vectors displacement and velocity. If you see, the main difference between distance and displacement is direction, and in the speed and velocity, direction. So these are scalar quantities and these are vector quantities. I have taken examples from this chapter. Now let us learn some formulas on vectors. Let us revise some formulas of vectors. Addition of vectors. As I told, scalars can be added directly like you do in algebra, but in vectors it is different. Even the representation of vectors is very important. They are almost represented in a graph, and you can represent them in a plane. Like I am considering my plane as this origin, x-axis and y-axis. Now I have two vectors, a bar and b bar. Now I am going to find the addition and the subtraction for these two vectors. I think you all are aware of the parallelogram theorem. Now this vector, it is now in the same way we can find for a bar minus b bar. Let's just write it as, we all know that b bar and minus b bar are same in magnitude, but their directions are opposite. Means this is my a bar and my b bar will be in the opposite direction. This is my original b bar and now this is my minus b bar. Now the angle between a bar and minus b bar will be, we know that this is theta and the whole will be pi. So this will become pi minus theta. So from this formula you can write a bar minus b bar. That will be a square plus b square plus 2ab cos of pi minus theta. That will be a square plus b square minus 2ab cos theta. So this is formula for a bar minus b bar, and this is for a bar plus b bar. And multiplication of vectors, cross product and dot product, we don't really use much in kinematics. Now let's just discuss about resolution of vectors. Now let's discuss about resolution of vectors. What is this resolution of vectors? In this process, we resolve the vector into two other vectors. These two other vectors, these are directed into the axis, that is x-axis and y-axis. So mainly it is very useful in finding the addition of vectors when complex addition of vectors is involved. Now let us understand this by using an example. Let us consider a vector a bar, that is OA bar. This is my a bar, OA bar. Now I am taking perpendicular from the vertex A onto x-axis and similar to y-axis. Now I am considering the points as B and C respectively. Now this vector is making an angle alpha with x-axis and beta with y-axis. Now this process is vice versa of parallelogram theorem. Like in parallelogram theorem, the addition of two vectors is calculated like this. Now this vector is broken into two vectors, and from the converse of parallelogram theorem we can write OA bar is equal to OB bar plus OC bar. That means A bar is equal to OB bar plus OC bar. Now we just have to find the values of OB bar and OC bar. In triangle OAB, cos alpha can be determined as OB by A. So from there we can say that OB is equal to A cos alpha. And again in the same way, in triangle OAC, OC can be determined as A cos beta. Now we can conclude the result as A bar is equal to A cos alpha I cap plus A cos beta j cap. This I cap and j cap are the unit vectors in the direction of x axis and y axis respectively. And again A cos alpha can be determined as component of A bar along with x axis, and A cos beta is component of A bar along y axis. So now we have resolved the vector A bar into two parts, one along x axis and the other along y axis. Now consider an example of the summation of the 10 vectors like A bar, B bar, C bar and up to 10 vectors. So first we have to add A bar plus B bar, and again to the result we have to add C bar, and again to the result we have to add D bar. So instead of that we can resolve all the vectors into two parts, either along x axis and along y axis. So now you have all your vectors in only two directions, that is x axis either positive or negative, and another one y axis that is also either positive or negative. So now we can find the resultant of the vectors. At the end you get only two vectors, in x axis direction one and in another one in y axis direction. So for the result you can use parallelogram theorem and you can find the resultant vector. That is the main use of this resolution of vectors. And we also use this resolution of vectors in dynamics. Now let's revise the concept of rate measure. If you have already studied the definitions of velocity and acceleration, it is described as rate of measure of. What is meant by this rate of measure? Now let us discuss that. I am considering a function y in terms of x. Y is equal to f of x. Now for every value of x there exists one and only one value of y. That means let us consider x1. So now I can get the value of y1 by using this function f of x1, and I am considering a slight increase in the value of x1. That slight increase is denoted by delta x. Now that will become delta 1 plus delta x, and now for this value of x, and I will get the y value as y1 plus delta y. If I plot graph for this, let me consider a graph like this. This is my x1 and now this is my increment delta x. So it will be my point x2. So the initial point will be y1 and the final point will be y2. And this will be my delta y. delta x. Now from the diagram I can write delta y by delta x is equal to tan theta. That is my slope of the graph. That is my slope of the graph. Change in y by change in x. But as you can see, there is a gradual increase in the slope of the graph. At each and every point, the slope of the graph is changing. That means we have considered our delta x value very high. Now, if I make my delta x value small, almost nearly to 0, I can find the slope of the value at this point, exactly at this point, at x1. So now I am considering limit. If I consider my delta x nearly becoming 0, and at the same time delta y will also be 0, but delta y by delta x will have some finite value. If I consider my delta x nearly is equal to 0, now this limitation we call it as dy by dx. Rate of change of y with respect to x. It is very useful to find the instantaneous values like instantaneous speed, instantaneous velocity, instantaneous acceleration. Now let's discuss about motion along straight line. Very simplest type of motion. Now let us understand this by using a simple example. Consider an object, a ball, moving from point O. Now it is moving along a straight line. The ball moved from the point O to A, and again it moved from A to B, and again from B to C. The original path of the ball. Let's try to draw the original path. It moved from O to A, and again A to B, and again B to C. See, in this path we try to calculate the distance and displacement. First we try to denote them. Distance. We all know the definition of the distance, that is length of the path traveled by an object. Length of the path. Now, first the ball moved from 0 to A. So that will give me OA plus, and again it moved from A to B. AB plus, and again it moved from B to C. So this is the total distance traveled by the ball. So now I think you understand the definition of the distance. It is the length of the path traveled by an object or a body. Now what is displacement? What is displacement? The definition of displacement is distance between initial position and final position. Understand this carefully because it is very important. Displacement, it is very important to find velocity and acceleration. Displacement, it is the distance between initial position and final position. Now see, the ball first moved from point O to point A. So this is our initial position. From O to A, and again from A to B, and again at C. So the final position is C. So now the displacement is distance between initial position and final position. So the distance between O and C is my displacement. That will be OC. And again, displacement will also have direction. So the direction is from initial position to final position. But the distance will only have magnitude. Displacement will have the direction from initial position to final position. So it is represented as OC bar, means it moved from O to C. This is initial position and this is final position. And frame of reference will also play a very important role in determining the distance and displacement. See, now let us consider an example. Now let us consider an example. I am placing this pen here. Now I am making it move from this point to this point. Let us note the points. Initial pen was here and again it moved from this position to this position. Now in my frame, pen moved from this position to this position, and even in your frame. Now consider I am moving the paper, not the pen. So from your frame of reference, the displacement will be very small, but the distance will be the sum of the distances between the first position and the second position and the distance moved by this paper. Let me explain again. The distance moved by the pen is sum of the distances from first position to second position plus the distance moved by the paper. But the displacement will be different. Displacement will be the distance between initial position and final position. If this is the initial position, now let me mark this initial position by the edge of this pen. Now if I move the paper to the same position so that the pen will be in the same position as the first position. Now the displacement is 0, but the distance is twice the distance between first position and second position. I think now you can find the difference between the distance and the displacement and also the direction of displacement. Now I will move the paper in exactly half of it, half the distance between first paper and second paper. Now the displacement will be from this position to this position. It will be in this direction. So you have to mention, now let us consider this point as A. So now the displacement will be from A to second position in this direction. And it is positive. If I consider original axis, x-axis as positive x-axis. Now if I move furthermore, now you can observe that the point, the second position is behind the initial position. Now let us consider this position as B. Now my displacement will be B2. It moved from B to second position, but it is negative. It has moved in the opposite direction. So now I can tell the displacement is dependent on direction. This is all about distance and displacement. Now in next video we will discuss speed and different types of speed, average speed, instantaneous speed, and I will bring some examples, conceptual examples of distance and displacement, and again velocity, acceleration. Thank you for watching.